The Maple Leafs split the weekend back-to-back. We'll recap the games, and we've got an Anthony Stolarz update for you. You're listening to the Locked On Leafs podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. It's your team every day.
You're Locked On Maple Leafs, your daily podcast on the Toronto Maple Leafs. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello and welcome into the Locked On Leafs podcast, a daily Maple Leafs-centric podcast hosted by myself, Mike DiStefano, and my co-host, Dave Morassutti. Today's episode is brought to you by Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use the code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off your first purchase. What's happening, Dave? How's your weekend?
Busy. This is when the Christmas parties start, gatherings, I should say. And yeah, lots of sports.
Lots of sports. I mean, you got a weekend back-to-back of Leafs hockey. So you got, all day. You got hockey on Saturday, and then you got all-day football on Sunday, and they had to throw in a Leaf game right in the middle of that Bills-Lions game. Really threw a wrench into things, huh? But, dual screen action. That's the beauty of modern technology. You got the dual screen action going, watching the Bills crush on one side. And then it looked like the Sabres were also crushing on the other side at first. They came out firing, scored early, and then padded the lead up to 2. And then the Leafs kind of figured their stuff out and took control of that hockey game and ultimately won it. They had lost the night before to the Detroit Red Wings. But all in all, they get 2 out of 4 points, a weekend split. What are your takeaways from the weekend, Dave?
Kind of a mixed review, right? Didn't start right, but ended pretty good. I didn't like the way they're playing against the Red Wings. Not really. I thought it was a lot of lazy play. But there were some passengers on the ice, especially on some of the goals. Didn't look like Craig Berube hockey. And it again, they were trying to outscore some of those problems. I mean, they kept it close, but to me, it was just like they weren't forcing the issue. And I don't know what it is. Like their road away from home, they just look like a totally different team.
Yeah, it is kind of bizarre. Like you mentioned, the home and road splits are really strange. I'll bring them up in a second here because the Leafs best home team in the NHL, 14-4 at home, just 5-6-2 on the road, sub 500 on the road, 14-4 at home. Like I understand you get last change, but is it really that important where you have that big of a discrepancy in your home road splits? It is kind of bizarre.
Well, it's not only that, the first period against Buffalo, for most of it, they looked kind of out of it. But it's to me, it's like the defense, they try to get certain matchups, right? We know that that's something that's harder to do when you're on the road, but the last couple games, Jake McCabe and Chris Tanev have kind of come down to earth a little bit. They're still a great pairing, but they were kind of exposed a bit. Now, I don't think it was all their fault. I do think that there was a lack of support from the players playing in front of them, and it put them in tough points.
McCabe, just coming back from the injury too. Like he might need a couple of games grace to get up to speed. But I mean, obviously those two, fish and pucks had the net a little bit over the course of the weekend. But like you mentioned, it's just the team defense sometimes seems to be a little lackadaisical, but which is strange because the game on Thursday, I thought that they were, really, really solid for most of that game, pressuring puck carriers, forcing turnovers. I thought they played well. And then all of a sudden you show up on Saturday against Detroit and that kind of goes away. And then you see it again in halfway through the Buffalo game. They start to forecheck hard and start to really, really get things going on the cycle. And, they start making plays. You're getting Nicky Bobby scoring goals. Max Domi ends up scoring. The offense really comes through from all depths of the game. Tavares ends up with a hat trick. And it's just like, man, there's still some inconsistencies with the group. And, I'm sure every team goes through its ups and downs. Realistically, we do kind of look at it as if, like, in a vacuum of the Maple Leafs and wish, why can't they play 82 games like they did that night in Tampa? Like that's always going to kind of come back. But it's just we saw a lot of that with Keefe, and I think a lot of us expected that maybe there would be a little less inconsistencies with Berube, and I think for the most part there kind of have been. Like, they are winning games that they should for the most part. Like, they should beat Buffalo. They did. All right, they lost to the Red Wings, but pretty well. They have a pretty solid record against non-playoff teams, if I'm not mistaken. But obviously, we got to see both goalies played this weekend. Joseph Woll got the start on Saturday, and then Dennis Hildeby got the start and the win on Sunday. What'd you think of the goaltending performances?
I thought Joseph Woll was doing his best, considering the Leafs weren't exactly defending great in front of him. Like, the first goal, he's got a mammoth of a being in front of him, like in Rasmussen. I don't know any goaltender that can look around that freakish of a player. Like, there was one of the goals where he literally made 2 or 3 saves, and Detroit's just like, it was like a firing squad, and then he's swimming in his net and they score. Like, it was things like that where I felt like he played well. Sure, you would have liked to see him try to, again, how much can you expect the goaltender to bail when the defense is playing like that? But so I thought he was fine. Hildeby, a bit of a rough start for him. I thought the 2 Sabres goals were, he was beat clean on them. And then, the team obviously got their acting gear and started playing better in front of him, and he got the win. And that's, you just want your goaltender to give you a chance. So he did that. Considering what his last outing in the NHL was like, I'm sure a bit more of a positive feeling for Dennis Hildeby.
I would think. It didn't start great right away. Leaves, take a penalty, give up a goal in the power play, and it's like, oh gosh. All right. Hopefully it's not that kind of night. And then it was 2-0 before he even sat down and flipped over from the Bills game, and it's like, oh boy. But the Leafs got their act together. That's for sure. Big night from John Tavares, the captain. Nick Robertson had a couple of nice plays. I thought he played well. We'll get to all that more next when we get to our 3 stars of the weekend. And we've got an update on Anthony Stolarz. That's all coming up next here in the Locked On Leafs podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. It's your team every day. Today's episode is brought to you by Gametime. Gametime is focused on togetherness this holiday season. That means when you bring people together at live events, the experience is that much better, and it's the perfect gift. Gametime has a new feature called Gametime Picks that makes getting tickets to live events even easier. Gametime Picks filters out the fluff to show you only incredible deals on great seats, so you don't have to waste time searching through thousands of tickets. Gametime Picks curates and makes it easier to save more on sports, concerts, comedy events, theater, whatever you're looking to get tickets to. They can give you a panoramic view of your seat in the app before you even buy the ticket. And they've got the lowest price guarantee, or Gametime will credit you 110% of the difference. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use the code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem the code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off. Download Gametime today. What time is it? Gametime. Welcome back into the Locked On Leafs podcast. Mike DiStefano, Dave Morassutti with you, as we are each and every weekday, Monday through Friday. We're chatting all Leafs all the time. We're talking about a Maple Leafs win and a loss coming off of the weekend back-to-back. They lost Game 1 to the Red Wings, won Game 2 against the Buffalo Sabres. Should note that Buffalo was also playing a back-to-back, so both teams, had some tired legs going into it, but the Leafs prevailed, obviously, with keeping a little bit sharper with a big third-period comeback to beat the Buffalo Sabres. And with that, Dave, I guess we'll go through the 3 stars of the weekend, considering that was the last game we played. So who was your first star of the weekend, would you say?
Oh, I got to give it to John Tavares.
Yeah.
Hat-trick man. The Discord really likes to throw out John Tavares' name and the amulet.
Yes, they do. I thought that he was gonna get the old natural. Like there's that one chance he had late in the second period where he's barreling in him and Max Pacioretty, and he got the shot off. It was pad save, but it was a good shot. But honestly, I feel like if he would have fed that over to Patches, that was like a backdoor tap into. But obviously, Tavares, man, he wanted that third, and he got it eventually with the empty netter. But yeah, John Tavares, I mean, the first goal, just standing in front of the net, on the power play, getting a stick on it. Well, I guess kind of hit a shin pad, not a stick, but go to the net. Good things happen. And they kind of all started from there, and they scored not too long after, and then got the empty net for the hat trick. So Johnny Tavares for sure is the first star of the game. Second star, Dave.
I'll give it to the third line. The newly made third line.
I like it.
Because the day on Saturday, the Leafs fans were looking for a whipping boy after that loss to Detroit. It was Max Domi who was being thrown out there.
Mm-hmm.
So here comes Bobby McMahon's back. They decide, okay, we're going to give some players the day off because it's a back-to-back, get some fresh legs in. So out comes Fraserman, in comes Nick Robertson, which I know that there was a streak before with Nick Robertson when he came out of the lineup and would come back in. I don't think we can. I mean, I know the streak was broken, but I think we can kind of correlate, him coming back and then obviously leading to a goal. But yeah, 2 goals from that line, big goals too. Like the Leafs were looking out of it until Domi scored that goal in the first period, and kind of what we've been asking this group to do, which is shoot, right? Get pucks on net,
especially Domi.
If he passed that off, then it would just sound the alarms, because that's a player who obviously has been struggling a bit with confidence. And then the goal, the setup from Domi, McMahon, and Robertson, the connection there, just it's like nice chemistry, even though they haven't played with each other. Like that was like, it's not like they had a chance to practice that too. Like they've literally, it was a thrown together trio, and it looked really good. And I think it was important to give Minton the day off, because this is a lot of hockey for a player who hasn't played. Like this is his first year of professional hockey, and so I thought it was nice. Now, do I think that this is third line is something that can be sustainable? I don't think so, because at home, again, it's a little easier to put these players into favorable situations. But I did like what I saw, and it gives a necessary. And Domi, it's funny because everyone's like, Domi's not a center, but you move him to center, and he goes out and he has some point production.
Yeah, good things happen sometimes when that guy's at center. It's interesting. I think it could work though if Robertson plays like that. If he plays, on the offensive, if he's hard on forechecks, if he's hovering for pucks, and that was a great pass he made to Domi for the goal, and then him getting out there scoring. So if he could play like that, I think this is a third line that could kind of stick. Like Bobby McMahon kind of brings what you need from a defensive and from a physicality perspective. And they've got the playmaker in Max Domi. You've got a sharp shooter in Nick Robertson, and then McMahon, net front guy. So you kind of have elements of something that could work for like a nice depth scoring line, if they can, remain healthy and stay consistent and not be a liability defensively. That's obviously the big key, is defensively. And I think that's where, the point you make at home, yes, you could protect that line a little bit more. So it makes some sense. On the road, maybe a little less sense, but, I liked it. I agree with you. I personally had Nick Robertson as my second star, just, 2-point night, big goal for him. And obviously a great setup on the Domi goal as well, give him second star. But I could get on board with giving it to all three of those guys and call the third line, quote, third line, second star. Who's your third star, Dave?
I'll give it to Auston Matthews.
Yeah, we're in lockstep there.
Yeah, I didn't care for his defensive play against Detroit. There was that one shift where he gave up the turnover, wasn't exactly doing a great job to recover on that turnover, but he's scoring. Like we like there was a lot of talk of like what's been going on with Auston Matthews scoring. Well, he's scoring now, and it's also the types of goals he's scoring. Like we were seeing him going to the net, right? That was good. We hadn't really seen him like get into those scoring positions for the one timer and getting that one timer off. Well, 2 straight games where he's done that, right? So I think he's definitely getting himself back into that wheelhouse of being able to find bury those chances he's getting that maybe weren't going earlier this year.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's what you need from Auston Matthews. Like he's just got to get going for this team to really, put themselves back into that status of cup contender, I guess. Like they just need a little bit more scoring, and ultimately it's got to come from Matthews. Scored a goal the other night on the power play against Detroit, and then obviously gets the assist. For half a second, I thought that he had scored because my best bet on covers.com was an anytime goal from Auston Matthews, and I was so stoked at first, and then realized, Tavares is leading the handshake line. Obviously, it was tipped in front. I was like, dang, stole the goal. Luckily, he went on to get the hat trick, so it at least wasn't wasted, I suppose. But yeah, I thought he'd scored for like half a second. But no, like Auston Matthews clearly, like he's the best player on the team. Like it's so funny to me. I don't know if you have these conversations with people, like if you're at a coffee shop or you're out and about, or you're with you have family gatherings. You got aunts, uncles, cousins who they like hockey, they watch hockey, they're kind of old school people. But I don't know. I've had a lot of conversations recently of people dogging Auston Matthews, and because when he was injured, the team was winning, right? They're 8-1 in his absence, 9-2 or something like that in his absence. And then he comes back, and they've been like kind of a 500 team ever since. And everyone's blaming Auston Matthews, saying, "Oh, they got to trade him. He's got to go." I'm like, are you guys insane? Like, are you actually insane? What do you mean he's not the best player? Someone told me the other day he's not even top 2. He's like, Marner and Nylander are clearly the better players. I'm like, what are we talking about? What are we talking about here? Yeah, it's really wild to me how quickly people forget that this man scored 69 goals last year. Yep. 69 goals. You're going to sit here and say Willie's a better goal scorer? What are we talking about? Sorry, had to get that off my chest. I had that conversation more than one time this weekend.
When have we ever seen this fan base be rational, or any fan base in any case be rational, right? But
it's true. But like I'm at a sports card show on Sunday, and like Auston Matthews or William Nylander cards are selling like hotcakes, and they're like, man, Nylander is like better than Matthews. Like they should trade Matthews and just let him take over the team. I'm like, this is nonsense. I'm like, have you seen that guy in his own end? Have you seen Matthews? Like that, Matthews is a Selke contender. Marner's a Selke contender. Same thing. We had this conversation this summer, and I stuck to my guns here. We're talking about Marner, much better player, not much better, but Marner is the better player than Nylander. We saw those lists come out in the early in the season, and it was like Sportsnet's, TSN's, like all these top 50 lists, and Nylander was ranked ahead of Marner. I'm like, this is just absolutely nuts, insane. Like, how could we possibly be at this point? Nylander is not a better player than Marner. Marner is a better player than Nylander. He's an all-around gifted player. He's a Selke contender, and Matthews is better than both of them. All right. I don't know why I had to randomly get on that rant, but it was something that I had a few conversations over the weekend about people dogging Matthews. I'm like, this is insane. He is unbelievable. But yeah, sorry, pal. Random tangent.
Yeah, it's okay. You're not the only one that gets those things. I just kind of let people say what they think.
Oh yeah, I let him say it. I let him go ahead. I'm like, oh yeah, you think? Yeah. But in the back of my head, I'm like, you are a dummy. You are a dumb dummy. That's all. All right, let's take a break. Let's come back, and we'll put a bow on the weekend and get you an update on Anthony Stolarz and some other rumblings around the NHL. This is the Locked On Leafs podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. It's your team every day. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Get ready to tackle the NHL action with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Because right now, new customers can bet $5 and get $150 in bonus bets if you win. The FanDuel Sportsbook app gives you everything you need to place live bets on the NHL all in one place. So when you get a hunch in the middle of a game, you can check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you place your bets. Just visit FanDuel.com to join today. You'll get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win that first $5 bet. That's FanDuel.com. Never waste a hunch and make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the Locked On Network.
Today's show is also brought to you by Rocket Money. Did Rocket Money help you find any subscriptions you forgot about or that you're paying for twice? That definitely happened to me. I had a few subscriptions that I didn't even realize I was paying for, and Rocket Money made it so easy to track them all down. It's like having a personal assistant for your finances. Rocket Money is a personal finance app that helps find and cancel your unwanted subscriptions, monitors your spending, and helps lower your bills so you can grow your savings. It brings everything together in one place, whether it's subscriptions, your spending habits, or even the goals you want to hit this year. Rocket Money has over 5 million users and has saved a total of $500 million in canceled subscriptions, saving members up to $740 a year when using all the app's premium features. For me, one of the best features is the subscription tracker. I use the cancel services I wasn't even using anymore, and I've already saved a ton. Plus, with their goals feature, I've been able to automatically set aside money for my future. No more stressing about budgeting every month. Cancel your unwanted subscriptions and reach your financial goals faster with Rocket Money. Go to rocketmoney.com/lockedon today. That's rocketmoney.com/lockedon. rocketmoney.com.
Welcome back into the Locked On Leafs podcast, a daily Maple Leaf centric podcast bringing new episodes Monday through Friday, free and available wherever you get a podcast. I'm Mike DiStefano, that's Dave Morassutti, and we've got an update for you when it comes to Anthony Stolarz, who got injured last week, left the game on Thursday in the second period, at the start of the second period, did finish out the game, however, and there was a slight update Friday afternoon that it was relatively good news on Stolarz. Despite that, he still ended up getting placed on injured reserve on Sunday. He was placed on injured reserve, and they were able to call up Dennis Hildeby, and he started in his place. But this means that Stolarz, it was retroactive to Thursday, December 12th. So he is ineligible to play in their next game against Dallas, but will be able to play, if healthy, I guess, against Buffalo on December 20th would be the earliest we could see Anthony Stolarz, Dave.
Yeah, it's again, it's one of those day to day. I'm like, I tell people now, day to day means
it's an IR stint, at least an IR stint.
Yeah, at least an IR stint, so at least a week. I know that there's a lot of talk too, but we don't really know what's going on. I'll credit Nick Kiprils, who was saying that there's some concerns about a previous knee injury that Stolarz has had, and looking at the video, okay, you can see he kind of stretches that area. Look, it's December. I get it. We want to make sure that, we don't have these injuries, but let's just take a breath. This is why you have two goalies. This is why you got some depth within your minor system. This is the point of year 2. You're going to have the holiday break coming up. Don't push anything that doesn't need to be pushed. I got to double check. I don't think the Leafs have a back. Though they do have a back-to-back this week, Friday and Saturday. So it'll be interesting to see. Okay, he's not going to, obviously, the earliest he can return is against Buffalo with the back-to-back. Maybe you could see a potential where
the 21st at the game against the Islanders, maybe on the road.
Yeah, get that one there. Actually, that one's at home against the Islanders. So they have the Sabres on the road. Yeah, they have a 2-game road trip. The fact that he was in Detroit too would suggest to me that it's not as bad, because why would he make the unnecessary trip to Detroit, right? Especially with it being a close road trip. So I think that's a more positive sign. Berube also said it was really positive with the news that they got. So again, they'll want to see him on the ice. We'll see if he gets on the ice between now and Wednesday, and that'll give us a better indication of where his status is.
Yeah, so what I would imagine what might be the case then is I would think the Islanders is the date that they're targeting, right? Like they talk about target dates for injuries, and this is what we're thinking. Now, they're probably not going to come out and say exactly what day that they're targeting, but to me it makes sense. He probably does not join the team on the road to Dallas and Buffalo and then just waits at home, gets some skates in, gets some practices in, make sure he's working out that knee to make sure that he's sharp and it feels good, and then should be able to start that game against the Islanders on the 21st. Because again, like you don't want to activate him too early too. That's a big reason why you put him on IR so that you have that extra roster spot to bring an extra body on the road with you. Right. So that's one of the big reasons why you want to do stuff like that. So I would think my guess would be we'll see Stolarz on the 21st, unless things are not progressing well. And then you never know. Maybe they'll think, oh, maybe after Christmas, just give them a couple more games, give them a couple more days. That wouldn't shock me either, based on how the Maple Leafs have been very cautious with a lot of injuries this year. So it could be after Christmas, but just based on the verbiage and how the schedule kind of shakes out, it feels like the 21st is a good spot for Stolarz to return.
Yeah, and again, there's a lot of games coming up, so whoever the Leafs goalie is going to be like they're going to be busy. You got a back-to-back. I would say you play Wednesday, you got a back-to-back Friday, Saturday, then you play Monday. So that's a good. That's 3 games in 4 days, right? That's a good. And then when you get back from the holidays, you got a back-to-back, and then you got New Year's Eve, early game on New Year's Eve
in Detroit too on the 27th.
Yeah. And you got a back-to-back, another back-to-back later in the year too. So like, this is the type of stretch that there's been a lot of talk about the goaltending and if they can remain healthy. This stretch is going to say a lot, right? Especially if you're going with that, the 1-2 tandem between Woll and Stolarz.
Yeah, well, there's 7 games? How many more days are left in the year? 14, 15 days left in 2024.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a Christmas break in between, but they've got 7 games still scattered in between. That's with also a Christmas break slotted inward. So yeah, lots of hockey to play over the next little bit. And it doesn't really slow down either, because it's a bit of a condensed schedule this year too, right? Because remember, they're taking like how many weeks, like 2.5 weeks off essentially for this 4 Nations Cup. So like come February, they play February 8th. They're in Vancouver, and then they don't play another game until the 22nd. So like that's a lot of games that they kind of have to splice throughout the year. And looks like the Maple Leafs, after having a pretty bleak early November schedule, or November schedule in general, tough December and Jan schedule to kind of put things all together. So that could be another reason as to why you keep the goalies as fresh as possible, and you got this tandem, both guys going, so that both are playing and neither is getting too worked too hard. Some other news around the league. Speaking of injuries, Alex Ovechkin apparently might travel with the Washington Capitals on their quick little West Coast trip. They got Chicago and Dallas over the next couple of days. And if he's traveling, that must mean that he could possibly play, I would think, or else why else would you travel when you're dealing with an injury and trying to rehab?
Yeah, he's been a beast. Like a beast when it comes to recover from the surgery. Like 2 weeks after having the surgery, he was back on the ice skating as if he didn't just have like this is a major injury.
He broke his fibula, right?
Yes.
Broke his broken leg. That is a broken leg, people. A broken leg. 2 weeks later, he was skating on it. This happened November 18th. November 18th. It is December 16th. within a month, he's going to return to the NHL to play on a broken leg at 39 years old. It's incredible. Like, Ovechkin continues to defy odds. And like, he clearly he knows he needs to get these games in, man. Like, he's chasing down that record. He's trying to get there as quick as possible. And this was a little hiccup, but I feel like he wants to get back and he wants to break the record this year. He doesn't want this to linger into next season. I think he really does want to break it this season.
Yeah, I know.
27 away or something.
Yes.
Yeah, something like that.
So, and like this is a 39-year-old we're talking about here, right?
Mm-hmm.
He's not, but like Ovechkin's always been like a freak of a human when it comes to, he's just kind of how we've always known to be. I can't remember the last time he had a really significant injury too, and like this is why I know he's missed time, but like, usually it's just like a little thing that he's kind of dealing with, and he's fine after that. But like, this is why Ovechkin is in this position right now to go after Gretzky's record. Is because he's been, pretty consistent in being able to play. Yeah, his durability has always been there. So, yeah, I'm excited to see Ovechkin back. He was 15 goals in 18 games before he got hurt. Like, and the Washington Capitals continue, like, they're still good even without him. Like,
yeah,
if you're the Metro Division right now, you're like, oh boy.
like Dylan Strome just continues to go. You got Dylan Strome, you've got Connor McMichael, Alexi Protas. Like, all these players just continue to rack up points, even in the absence of Alex Ovechkin. Like, they're just, I don't know, it's a well-built team, man. Like, they're doing some good things. Strome has 37 points in 29 games. 37 points. That is outstanding. Like, what's his career high? I wouldn't imagine he's got anything higher than like 60-something points. Last year was his career high at 67 points through 82 games. The year before, 65. So he's been, a 65-ish point player when he's, in this couple years in Washington. 37 and 29. I think it's a contract year too for him, if I'm not mistaken. Did he sign a 3-year deal in Washington or a 4-year deal? I feel like it was a 3-year deal. If that's the case, man, Dylan Strome's gonna get himself.
He's had a 5-year deal. 5-year deal.
Is that a 5-year deal in Washington?
Yeah. Yeah, they're getting an absolute steal out of that contract right now.
Bargain.
5 years, $25 million deal signed in 2023.
And you know what's sickening about that? Sickening. He was ready to come to Toronto. And apparently the Leafs weren't willing to give him a 3rd year.
He was my number 1 target that year in free agency.
But like, legitimately, he wanted a 3rd year on the deal and didn't happen. And they ended up paying Domi, I think, instead. I think they chose Domi over Dylan Strome. And Yarncroc. Yarncroc.
Yeah, it was Yarncroc.
Yeah, they gave Yarncroc the money over Dylan Strome. Yeah, a couple years ago. And
yeah, like that. Not only that, if you're the Chicago Blackhawks right now, you must feel disgusted that you just let Dylan Strome walk. And I mean, Strome probably also left because that team was going nowhere, right? And it was going through that rebuild. But if you're Chicago right now, man, I mean, not even just Chicago, Arizona.
Oh yeah, all those teams, like, they all gave up on him.
This guy was a top pick, right? He was the
third overall pick. Yeah.
There's a reason why he was a 3rd overall pick. I know a lot of people were saying, it was McDavid. Like, you gotta be a good player to produce like that too. So, Washington is just, again, it's finding those ways to, get players like this to produce. It's been impressive. I've seen from Washington this year.
Very, very impressive. But the point that I was finishing there on Dylan Strome was, we spoke to him, I remember, on Leafs Lunch. He literally was saying, like, yeah, I want to come to Toronto. Had a deal, there was talks, but they gave money to someone else, and they elected to give money to Yarncroc instead. I guess he wanted a third year. They're only offering 2 years, but then gave Yarncroc 4. Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. Makes a lot of sense. But anyways, say Levy, what are you gonna do? Can't you obviously can't change the past. But yeah, the Washington Capitals, man, they're moving and shaking. The Anaheim Ducks moving and shaking. They made another trade over the weekend, sending out Cam Fowler to St. Louis. So they bring in Jacob Trouba and say hasta la vista to Cam Fowler, which was kind of interesting. But they get a second round pick and a prospect in return, and apparently now Brendan Sott could be on the trade market. He's in St. Louis, isn't he?
Yep, he has one more year left, or he's either in his last year, he has one more year left on his deal in like the 4.5 million range. Not the player he used to be, but I mean that's a guy that's got the 2 cup rings. I think a team will want to see if he still got some left in the tank.
What kind of season is he having? Because if he's having a decent year, and like Brandon Saad has been so off my radar the last couple of seasons in St. Louis. Like when he was in Chicago and Columbus, like yeah, he was on my radar.
6 goals last year, 42 points. He has 10 points,
20
goals in 28 games. But he's also got a career low shooting percent. Oh, he has an 8.9 shooting percentage, and his ice time has gone down. I'm sure Jim Montgomery's played a little bit of a role in that. Oh, lost you again. So, yeah, I think I'm sure a team that needs depth scoring would consider it, but he probably needs a middle 6 role to. I mean, he's played a middle 6 role. I just also wonder at the age of, how old is he right now? 32. He's not old, but he's not the Chicago Brandon Saad too. I think that's what people are. It's just not what we've come to expect of Saad too, right? I guess that's. I don't know if again, if we're talking about with the Leafs, I think they need a center more than they need a Brandon Saad. But I also think that I think you'll find a team will eventually take that on if they feel like he could be a good veteran presence for a team in a playoff run.
Yeah, someone will do that. Someone will take him on. And what is going on here? I don't know what just happened there. Somebody will probably eventually take it, especially if it's like a double retention type of thing. Yeah. Someone will see, the experience, the playoff experience, the cups, and we'll bring him in. He would be a good, bottom 6 piece if you can get him cheap, though. I think he would be a good bottom 6 piece. Yeah, he's not the ad that Toronto needs to make, but he could be one of a few ads to kind of build out some depth on this team. But anyways, that's a conversation for another day. Let's wrap things up here because my computer's starting to go on the fritz apparently. Like to thank everyone for listening and supporting the show. You can subscribe to the Locked On Leafs podcast on all podcast platforms and receive daily Leafs content. Follow myself on Twitter at Mickey_Canuck. Follow Dave at D_Morassutti and follow the show as well at Locked On Leafs. We'll be back with another episode for you guys tomorrow. But until then, keep it locked right here on Locked On Leafs.